it's Allie Edwards, and I just wanted to give you a quick intro to this video that I'm going to share with you today. What you are going to be seeing here is a walk through my mom's 2020 December daily album that she just completed and has been working on for quite a while now, and it is a magnificent, wonderful treasure. And she and my dad together, they both tell stories in this album, and they gave me permission to share it with you guys. And I think it is a wonderful opportunity to see a different style of memory keeping, or a different way for doing December Daily than I do it, in terms of it's highly focused on words and photos, and it's not a lot of crafty stuff, which the crafty stuff, as you guys all know, and as you've probably heard me talk about before, can be super fun and a super fun part of the process if you want it to be. This book, as you will hear me say many times throughout the video, is a gift, and it is a family gift for sure. My hope is that my mom enjoyed the process just as much as the finished piece. I know that she is really proud of this album and of bringing all of these stories together in one place and having the actual documentation written down of what her life looks like right now. So I'm super happy to be able to share this with you guys today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have in the comments below. Let's dive right in. Hey, this is Allie Edwards, and in today's video I want to bring you something that is very special to me. This is my mom's 2020 December daily album. And some of you that have been able to come to events that we've held here in Oregon have been able to meet my mom, or actually she's come with me to some other events around the country. I think around the world too. I'm trying to think. I think around the country. So you may have met my mom in person before. My mom is the kindest, gentlest, most compassionate human I probably know. And she is someone that is definitely interested in scrapbooking and has done lots of different things over the years. She's taken pictures for sure, and many of you that have been in my community for a long time know that my parents have taken lots of pictures, and I have lots of pictures from my childhood. And December Daily is one of the projects that she has started and stopped, like many people out there, right? So this year she really wanted to finish her 2020 album, and she's had some health issues that have impacted her ability to do other things, plus COVID, right? So she spent a ton of time this past December and earlier working on this 2020 album, and I want to share it with you guys today. It is ridiculously special to me as a person, as a family heirloom, and just the gift of being able to read her words is something that I don't think I can actually articulate what a gift that is. And in classes where I talk about memory keeping, a lot of times I talk about thinking about what you wish you knew, from your family or your parent or your partner or whoever, and using that as information for the kinds of stories that you decide to tell for yourself. This is a living, breathing example of that, being able to go back in here and read the stories that my mom has shared about what is important to her related to Christmas and the holiday season, and the ways that she and my dad are spending their time in this season of their life, right, in their mid-70s, is truly a magical gift. And it is also really wonderful inspiration to me, and I think it will be to you, to encourage you to include words in your projects, because that's really what she did in this album. It is, and she talks about that too, about how this is really what she was focusing on, is words and photos. And it wasn't about the products, and it wasn't about the craftiness. It was truly about documenting what her 2020 Christmas season looked like. And I feel like this is the truest representation of the heart of this project, which is why I asked permission to be able to share this with our community, because I think it is such a great example of a way that you can approach this project. Number one, without having all the products, but number two, by really focusing on the stories of your season and the different things that make up your holidays. So let's dive in. So she's working obviously in a 6x8 album here. And she started off, one of the things that she did at the end here, she actually came back and did this at the end, and I know this because she told me, was as she went back and flipped through all of the pages in her album, she noticed that she didn't have a lot of pictures of herself. And she's heard me, because she takes the classes and listens to the content, she's heard me talk about the importance of including photos of yourself. So she actually came back in and added a picture of herself and then wrote a little bit about the album, you know, what the year was like and 2020 and those sorts of things in there. I'm not going to go through and read you all of her words. There are she's included tons of words, and I'll highlight some of the things as we go through. But it's really magical for me to be able to look at this because she includes a lot of her own handwriting as well as typed up. When I look at this project, I wholeheartedly recognize the amount of time that it took her to write, to do all of the writing that explains the photos, right? So she starts off the album talking about a stained glass creche that my grandmother made. And it's something that she brings out every Christmas. And she talks in her writing about how last year she decided to leave it out all year because they have it on the top of their fireplace, and they spend a lot of time in front of their fireplace praying, reading devotionals, you know, looking at the news, all the different kinds of things that they, as in my mom and dad, like to do at their home. And so she talks about that in the beginning. So lots of these are individual stories there. And again, they're very much family stories too, right? Of things that what's important to her to pull out during Christmas. And I think that, you know, some of the things are things that I know of from growing up and things that are traditions that they have upheld over the years or continued over the years. And other things are new about what their life looks like right now as to older people living on their own, right? And especially living during 2020 and during COVID, where the ability for them to see people was limited. So next story she goes into is talking about the tree that they got. And she does all kinds of cute things in here, right? Like she's cut up a page protector to add in a photo of my dad working on the lights, going through the lights. She's got a really cute little flip up here. I love how she uses ribbon to frame things. You'll see that at a variety of different places here. And she's got a little number 3. This is a photo, and then she's got added stars on the top. So this is where they bought their tree. And then the flip up part here is the full story about not only where they bought their tree, but how in the past they went shopping for trees, and or when we were growing up, we used to go up into the woods to find a tree because my dad worked in the timber industry and had access to timber stands and things like that. And so she talks all about that. It's very much, if you were to read her writing here, you would see that she is the person that really inspired me to focus on gratitude and taught me that growing up. And it's reflected in her writing. She talks a lot about things she's thankful for and being thankful for my dad. And they've been married for 50 years now. You know, just all the she includes that a lot, which is something that I also do. And I know that 100% came from her, and also then from, you know, living that way in my own life and knowing how important that has been for me. Next story she tells here is about a Christmas Advent angel. So this is the one that she made actually when I was a kid. And this is the one that hung in our house when I was a kid, and they bring it out, and it's this beautiful, I mean, she made this, it's a angel, it's like has stuffing on the inside of it and has all these little pockets, and inside each of the pockets is either a scripture reading, I think, or some sort of a message, a positive message, right? Lots of positive messaging. And then she would always put a candy cane in there. And so on our way out the door to school, this was our advent calendar growing up, we would grab a candy cane or a Hershey Kiss or something like that. And she talks about in her writing how over the years she's added on these little Christmas pins that she's found in different places. And it's lovely, right? She's written it all out. In case I ever forget what this was about, she's telling me what it's about. I feel like that's part of where the magic is, right? She is not only just including this photo, but she's telling the story of how this came about and some of her own memories and reflections of this particular piece. She's got another little journaling spot here that talks about a Santa that they found at a thrift store. My parents love going to thrift stores. And she also talks about in her journaling, I'm not sure where it is in here, but my parents, I grew up in Washington State outside of Seattle, and the home that I grew up in, my parents still own that home, but they spend the vast majority of their time on the Oregon coast in a house that they found, I think in 2012, and purchased. And so they live most of their time there, spend most of their time there. They are very outside people. They do tons of gardening, tons of living with the seasons, which is something that's really important to me. And there's a lot of that reflected in here too. But they love when they are driving from their home on the Oregon coast up to Washington. It's like a, if you don't stop, it's about probably a 6 or 7 hour drive, I think, actually from their house. I got to think about it. But they like to stop a lot. And with my mom's health issues, they need to stop a lot for her to be able to get out and walk around too. So they like to stop at thrift stores, and they find all kinds of wonderful treasures when they go there. The next part of my mom's album is about cross stitch, and she has been cross stitching since she started carpooling. That's what she says in her story here, in about 1980 when we were going to school. My brother and sister and I were going to school, and she picked up cross stitching as a hobby because she was finding herself waiting. All right, I had to switch cameras because my phone kept deleting the videos that I was taking, so I'm over on my desktop. So if it looks a little different, that's why. But I'm just gonna keep continuing on here. So one of the things that she did while she was waiting for us, right, for whether it was carpool or sports or anything, was that she decided to start doing cross stitch. And so she started doing this in 1980 is what she said here. And I love the reflections on the hobby. And what she did for documenting that in this album is amazing. And before I show you those, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. This is a Mary Inglebrite cross stitch that she did in 2000. And she talks about in the writing here where she tried to look it up online and found that it's considered very rare now, and she loved that. And she also, it's got lots of purple in it, which is something she's always been a really big purple fan. So a beautiful photograph of that there. And then what she did with all of these wonderful cross-stitch Santas is she took pictures of every single one of them. She wrote down what the names of each one are. She's got little stars here that have little numbers on them that correspond over here. So each one of these is one that she has done at some point in time over the years, and they're just so cool, and it's so fun to see this collection all together, right? And I really want to honor the time that it took to do this, and you guys that are watching this know how much time it takes to not only get out your collection, but to then photograph your collection, to then edit those photos, to print them out and put them into the album. It's just such a cool representation of something that's been really special in her own life and something that she's cared a great deal about. So that continues here onto this page. Just is really, I just love it. It's just one of my favorite things in this album, along with all of these other stories. She's got a few other cross-stitch things that she's done here in the past that she's added in, and then she just added a few little snowflakes, and also a picture of an amaryllis bulb kit, another something that I like and enjoy during the holidays, again with the details there as well. And then she tells the story of a snow globe, which is one that she and my dad found in 2013. She actually has it detailed here, which I thought was so fun. She says, I purchased the snow globe 12/13/2013 at the Goodwill in Cottage Grove, Oregon for $10.80. Al and I found the actual purchase, Al's my dad, found the actual purchase information by finding the box of 2013 taxes and the Quicken data info in our basement. I had recorded the data, the date, cost, and location where I purchased the snow globe, which is just like very much my mom, and it's so fun to see her including that information in here, because that's a big part of what she's done over the years. She's the person that paid the bills and did all of those sorts of things, and so she was very, very organized with that. And then a little bit of more information and details about this particular snow globe. She also has a photo here that has the back of the snow globe, the other side of it. Pull that out here, which is really fun to be able to see that as well. So the other side talks about why this was important to them and why it was something that they care about, something that's special for them to bring out each holiday season. The next story she talks about is Nutcracker and cross stitch, and she loves nutcrackers and always has, and talks a little bit about how that was something important when she was a child growing up in a very small rural town in eastern Oregon. And she has fond memories of the nutcrackers and different nutcracker ornaments that they gave us over the years, and then also being able school when we were kids to take us individually to see the Pacific Northwest Ballet Nutcracker performance, and that is definitely a special memory for me when I think back on that too. So loved seeing a little bit of reflection on that story. I really like how, you know, when she was thinking about the stories to tell for this, she was definitely thinking about what's important for her during the holiday season, right? What is important for her and what has been important for her over the years, definitely in terms of like the things that they pull out, the things they hang up, the decor that they enjoy using, and how that's linked to family stories. Like I just love seeing that. The next story that they talk a little bit about here is the driving back and forth between the home that I grew up in Washington State and then where they live on the coast, and how they go back and forth for doctor's appointments and different things. And then oftentimes they like to stop at different Goodwills along the way and thrift stores. And this is one Santa that she found at a cross-stitch Santa that she found at a Goodwill in the past, and just a little bit of information about that. I thought that was cute. And then she's got a short little story here about a Christmas card with love, joy, and peace from my dad's cousin. A little bit about the family. I love how she's got this part here. It's words are important, our thoughts shape our words shape our lives. Probably pretty evident where my love of words, you know, that was given to me, right, or shown to me from a very early age. That, along with this attitude of Thanksgiving and being grateful and saying thank you out loud, like that is something that was definitely modeled for me, and that comes up again and again here within this album too. Love, joy, and peace there on the back side. So again, the pieces that they like. I think that was part of the Christmas card there too. So she cut out the different pieces of the Christmas card and then adhered it on the back. This next one is a story that I feel like is really special to me. She's talking about their beach house kitchen window, a typed up story. And the story of the kitchen window includes information about just looking out the kitchen window and how in this particular house that was built in 1944, they have a septic system there and it doesn't hold a ton of water, so they've never put in a dishwasher, and so they wash dishes by hand, which is just the two of them most of the time, right? So that's okay. Also, she talks about how several years ago she found this like stormtrooper character out in the yard and how she brought it in and put it in her kitchen window. And then she has a little character here that is Anna from the movie Frozen, and how these two little figures sit in that kitchen window and how it makes her think of Simon and Anna and say prayers for Simon and Anna. And she talks about how she wants to have a character, you know, or a little figure for each one of her grandchildren. She also talks a lot about birds, and one of the things that my parents are very into is the natural world and the things that are happening right outside their door there on the coast or wherever they are. They're very much into feeding birds, feeding the hummingbirds, and she talks about the different birds that they can see there. It's like a nature preserve. It's such an awesome thing, and something that's really also been passed down to me in terms of working in the yard and, you know, loving to have bird feeders and bird houses and all those things. So definitely special writing for me in terms of a variety of different things within that particular story. The next story that she talks about is down on the south coast is a golf course called Bandon Dunes, and down there is another course that's attached to it called the Sheep Ranch, and this is a place that our family has spent time. My dad worked there. My dad retired a long time ago, and in 2005, 2006, he drove a water truck out at this particular golf course, which is right along the Oregon coast. Beautiful, really well thought of golf course. And he worked there, you know, driving a water truck in the summer. And so this is a little bit of story about that, and a story about just how our family has spent time down there on this particular course before it was open to the public. The next story she tells here is, I think, a really sweet story about what they like to do in the mornings. They are both early risers. They like to sit by the fire and read. They like to have their tea and coffee, and then they always like to have a cookie for breakfast, which I think is really funny, and I love that particular story. She talks about where they buy their cookies at Safeway or other grocery stores, and they buy many of them and then freeze them, and then they have one cookie with their drink in the morning, which it just is very much my parents and very much the way that I've experienced it when I have spent time with them. She also talks about cocktail napkins, and this is what they eat with their cookie in the morning. And you know, this is one of those stories, right, where it is an everyday piece of their life. And for me to read it, it is just such a reflection of her paying attention to the way that they live, right? And her being able to articulate, this is how we live, and this is the things that are important to us in this season of our life. And she talks about going to the thrift store to pick up fun cocktail napkins, and how because of COVID they didn't really do that this year. And I just really appreciate that she took the time to do this as a gift. You know, in many ways it feels like a gift to me. It's also, I think, a gift to our whole family of her documenting the different pieces. And going along here in a little bit, there's also pieces that were written by my dad too. Just a really cool documentation of their life. Next up, she's got a story about sitting by the fire. Again, this house was built in 1944 and it has a giant fireplace, and they spend tons of time there, right? That's where when they get up in the morning, that's where they sit, that's where they read, that's where they look on their devices, that's where they, you know, get ready for the day, and then that's where they end their day as well, right? Sitting by the fire. And they have fires throughout the year there, and many of you guys know that I love having a fire in my fireplace, and that's something that is, I think probably I feel very connected to my parents when I sit by the fire. I think that that's probably part of that experience, and so I love being able to read about how special that is for them. All right, next story here is about Christmas lights, and this one I thought was pretty funny. She's got a picture of my dad in 2019, and then a picture in 2020, and then a little journaling card here. Again, I love how she's doing the borders with either washi tape or ribbon. And she's got Christmas lights 2020, simple outdoor lights this year with warnings to seniors not to be climbing on ladders and roofs to hang Christmas lights. Partly, I think, because of COVID, right? They didn't want to get injured and have to go to the hospital during that point in time. So this year they made, I feel like, the wise decision to not hang, you know, not get up on the ladders, but to just do some really beautiful dangly Christmas lights there just on the front of their house. Another story that I feel like was really, really special that she included in this album, this was on the 4th of December. The story that she has written out by hand here is talking about how they go grocery shopping once a week. So I love how she starts off by including information or, you know, details just about how they live their daily life, right? So they like to go grocery shopping once a week. They are always looking at what's on sale and are definitely like paying attention to where things are on sale, and then they go to those places. She talks about how when they returned home from this particular grocery trip that she was very tired, and part of the health issues that she is experiencing, it's called myoclonus, and it's some sort of a neurological which results in involuntary physical movements, and so she gets tired really easy, and sometimes it's really hard for her to take a nap. And on this particular day she went up to take a nap and was able to fall asleep, and she was really thankful that she was able to fall asleep, and she slept for quite a while. And so when she woke up, it was dark outside, and when she looked out her window out into where this would be the ocean, and this is a hedge here, when she looked out there, what she saw was this row of colorful Christmas lights that my dad had put out while she was resting. And when she looked outside, she saw this beautiful row of bright, colorful Christmas lights, and her writing is just talking about how she's so thankful. She said, I'm so thankful for Al's work at making this Christmas season a nice one, even when it's just the two of us at our beautiful home on Lighthouse Beach. And so that it's just a really cool, it's such a good representation of her and the way that she lives and how she pays attention, and also how he cares for her, right? And how he's making magic for her during the season, and how she recognizes that. And it's just, you know, when you writing those things down makes them more real in a way, I think. And you know, my dad has been able to go through and read all of this, and I know that it felt like he was very emotional when he looked at it, and it definitely makes me emotional looking at it. I just think it's just such a beautiful piece of work, right? A beautiful piece of her story and of their story. So the next story that she's talking about here are bells, Christmas bells that they got in the year 2000 when they were in Hawaii for Christmas in Kauai, which is also somewhere that was special for our family. So she's talking a little bit about those, and then she's also talking about these angel Christmas ornaments that she ended up turning into a mobile. Super cute. All right, and it's really fun to see, like, too, in terms of product, you know, she's got product here and there, but again, her album is really focused on the words and the photos. That is by far the thing that she is working on or focusing on the most, and it's fun to see the different ways that she's added things in. The next story that she shares here is about the Christmas star. So in 2020, there was the ability to see the Christmas star, and so she's got a whole section here, and she's got numbers that relates to their experience of seeing the Christmas star and other information that she wanted to include about it that is really important to her. So she's got a little bit of a story about it, Bible quote there, and then she also has included here inside the pocket is a email from my brother that is talking about the Christmas star, which I thought was really cool. Just very similar to the way that this year in my own December Daily album, I included an email from my parents, right? That was something that I often do in my project, and so I loved seeing that she included that in there as well in this section talking about the Christmas star. And then they have this really beautiful stained glass star. I was going to see if she has something written about that. Number 8, it says it's a photo of a stained glass Christmas tree topper. Oh, she found it at a thrift store. At the time she purchased it, she didn't know that it was designed as the Christmas star, and so she searched online and found other stained glass stars like it and learned more about the Christmas star at that time, and it's one of their most treasured ornaments now. So that's really cool, especially also relating back to the first story that she told about the stained glass creche that she has, or nativity scene, and so that's another neat little piece of it. The next story they talk about is sending Chuck's tuna. So Chuck's is a place that is down in the area where they live, and one of the things that they like to send at Christmas time is a box of tuna, and we all love the tuna and we want the tuna. And what she says in her journaling here, she's included the brochure and then the photo of the boxes of tuna, but she talks about how once you have Chuck's tuna, it's really hard to have any other, so it's really hard to have any other tuna after that. So she wrote a little bit about that here, which I think was really sweet. The next story that she talks about here is Christmas candy and candy in general, telling a story about how when she grew up in this rural area of Eastern Oregon, what they made cookies. Making cookies was what her family did for sweets and a sweet tooth. And then she talks about my dad, and my dad is major candy person. My sister is a major candy person. I like candy quite a bit, some specific kinds of candy, and this is kind of her documenting about that, but also then including what their favorite Christmas candies were, and then writing about it there too. So my dad loves the peanut brittle, my mom loves the Frango mints, which when I was a kid we used to drive to downtown Seattle to Meyer and Frank to buy the packages of Frango mints and Frango chocolates there. I'm gonna just place my hand over their address. The next story that she's telling here is that the gifts that they sent in addition to the tuna in 2020 were some scarves, some McDougal, which is my maiden name, McDougal scarves there, and I thought that was really cool, talking about how they picked them out and the different things related to that. This next one is my Christmas card from 2020 to them, and so then my mom wrote a little bit about me and our family and talking about this particular project, and then she's got details about our card there and Star Wars, and how Star Wars is an important part of my own immediate family and Simon specifically in our family. So she wrote about that, which I loved, and bunch of storytelling related to lightsabers and how when Simon and Anna have stayed at the beach in the past, they brought lightsabers down there, and she has memories of watching them out the window doing lightsaber battles, which I loved, which I thought was really fun. And then she also included, so this was the gift that they sent to us, and then what we sent to them in 2020 was Jenny's ice cream. You can send Jenny's ice cream, like a big box of it, and so they had that in their freezer, and they got to try out all of those. So that was a fun gift. We like to send food-based gifts off. My sister sent candy boxes in this particular year. It was super cute, and so the next piece here is from my sister. So Christmas card from my sister, what she wrote, and then some cards also from my sister and my niece there too, so each of our different families, and then my mom writing a little bit about my sister here on this section, which then moves into a section about my brother and spending quality time with them, and a picture of them when they were able to see them during COVID times at a distance in the driveway there, and that's what she's talking about in this story. So I think that this is it's an interesting year for her to have completed the album in 2020, especially with the pieces of code COVID sprinkled throughout, right? That was a reality for all of our stories in that particular year. And so I think it's interesting to see that mixed in with the rest of the storytelling. So then she talks about the gifts that she received from John and Liz, and from my brother and sister-in-law, and socks and gloves and the Yeti mugs that they're using to drink out of, and talks a little bit about time spent with them. And then it moves into, we've got some Christmas champagne there, which I love. And then she said, I love this story, I really do love Christmas. Christmas trees, Christmas lights, Christmas decorations, Christmas music, Christmas cookies, Christmas dinners, Christmas shopping, Christmas gifts, Christmas stories, Christmas car rides, Christmas photos, Christmas mass, Christmas candy, Christmas cards. Like, my mom loves Christmas for sure. And then this is a story about her neighbors, and then this is a big picture of candy that her neighbors made, that those have become some special friends of theirs then. Other friends, so she's included some Christmas cards from friends and gifts that friends had given or shared with them there. Super cute. I love how she did this one with the flip up there. I think that's really cute. Then moving in here, she tells a story about amaryllis, which are bulb forced bloom flowers that I love. And this year, when my parents visited last time I was talking to them, I didn't get any amaryllis bulbs this year, and that's not normal for me. But she talks about that in here, and how they get them, and how they grow them. And flowers are such an important part of their lives. You can see where I would get that as well. So it's fun to see how she has brought all of these together to tell the stories. The next story that she tells is about going to Shore Acres State Park, which is a state park in Oregon that they live near, and visiting the state park, and some information about that and their park pass and how they love to go there. More about their own experience in their own life of those stories. Again, love how she's doing the things along the side there, like that's a little bit of ribbon. She's got a trail map here for the trails out at Shore Acres, more information about that. And then she has a whole story here too, which I think is really cool, about the flowers that bloom at their house in December. The Oregon coast is a fairly mild climate. They don't get as much, there isn't as much of a cold range as we have here, and even here where I live in the valley area, which is a couple hours away from them, you know, we don't get a ton of snow. But where they are, my dad, they're just amazing. They grow flowers like there's no tomorrow. So these were all flowers that were blooming in December 2020. There was some other information about flowers that were blooming at Shore Acres out at that state park, which is a big flower-based state park. But this was really cool to see what different flowers were blooming in their own yard in December 2020. So this is such a great example of telling your own story, right? Telling the story that is most important to you and the reality of your own life, right? For many, many people, they have no flowers blooming in December, but because of where my parents live, this is the part of their reality, and part of what's important to them, and part of what they find to be special where they live. All right, then we move in here, and my dad starts doing some of the writing. And in this particular one, she's got a bunch of different little pieces over here I thought were cool too. My dad wrote about how they enjoy visiting cemeteries up in the Tacoma area in Washington State. And my dad's parents were buried there. Many other family members on my dad's side were buried there. My parents will be interned there as well, and they have already set that up for themselves, which is I think a gift in many ways, and they're very open and talk about it very openly. And so this is a picture of him visiting during December, or visiting the cemetery there, and his parents are back in this area, and I think this is actually the one that my parents will be in at the time that they pass away. And so this is probably one of those stories that not everybody would include, right? But it is a story that is special to my family, my parents. Anytime they go up there, I'm pretty sure almost every time they go and visit the cemetery, and they leave flowers, right? Again, flowers being a really important part of their story. They take pictures, and they send pictures to people that are unable to visit. And it's just a really true and authentic piece of their story, and that this is how they view family. right? And how you honor those who have passed on, including his brother Bill, who died of COVID, early in COVID actually, in 2020, who was also in this area. And the area that they will be interned in is called the St. Francis Garden, I believe. Yeah, the Garden of St. Francis, which is something that's very special to my parents too. So the next story that she tells then is about Christmas bedding. I thought this was really fun. Also reminiscing about a friend of hers that she had a number of years ago, and some of the things that her friend said to her and talked about, you know, make the bed, do the dishes, take a shower, wash your hair, take a walk, especially when you're living through more challenging times. I thought that was a really beautiful message. But the rest of the story is talking about Christmas bedding and making the bed, and how my mom usually makes the bed in the morning, and sometimes he will make the bed. She loves when, you know, she walks in there and she finds that he's made the bed. And some of you guys might remember, I think it was in December Daily, I can't remember, but I've told a story recently about how Aaron makes the bed every day here, and how that feels really special to me. All right, the next story here then is also written by my dad, and it is talking about going crabbing, and he's got a drift boat, and he loves to go out and catch crab and catch salmon, and he goes in the ocean in the drift boat, and he goes up the slough in the drift boat. It says, like, today I'm interested to visit a cove near the upper end of the slough where I have often gathered chanterelle mushrooms. And he says, as you can see, the ground where I pulled the boat ashore is covered with frost in this area. It's just a really cool, and I love obviously that she is including other voices, right? Inviting my dad to participate in some storytelling, and really representative of the things that are important to him. He definitely is someone that lives by the seasons and is extremely self-sufficient in terms of the way that he lives his life. And I love reading about that, especially from a seasonal living standpoint, which is something that's become more and more important to me as I get older and as I identify the things that are important to me. So then I got a couple more pictures about that. Him cracking crab, again, super, you know, important part of our family. And my mom saying, you know, my dad truly makes the holidays merry and bright. And there's some seals there because he talks about how there's an area there where he likes to go. There's a bunch of seals and seeing all of the different wildlife. They live very much in tune with what's happening related to that. And the other thing that they really love too is good food. And obviously that plays into catching the crab and the fish and all of the hunting for mushrooms, all those kinds of things. So my dad talked about the food traditions, and definitely traditions in his own family too, of the things that they have cooked, whether it's crab or it's prime rib or it's a Japanese dish that's called shabu shabu that they have made throughout my life and that we make here from time to time too. It's a really special meal, Japanese meal, a special meal to have. And so he's reflecting on some of that here. Again, gifts. The words are the gift. Right? The pictures are great. I love having the pictures too, but the words are the gift, right? The words are the actual pieces of them just talking about what's important to them and how are they living at this point in time and what has been important to them over the years. And then they've got some Christmas cards from friends, which I thought were really fun. So she's adding some of those in. So she's got a Christmas card from Katie. So Katie and her family have become wonderful friends with my parents, one of my cousins, and then another family that are very special to us, which is Paulo Lilock's family. His brother bought a golf course that's actually down where my parents live, and so they spend quite a bit of time together too, and she talked a little bit about that. This next story here is Lighthouse Beach at sunset or sunrise, and she's talking a little bit about life on the beach and getting up in the morning early and different things that happen, again, related to the weather and related to the season, telling a story about that there. Next, she tells a story about ornaments, and she's got her Christmas box that was given to her by her parents, and she has written a little bit about that and about ornaments and about how she wrote down all of the ornaments that we got for years, and she kept meticulous details related to all that. All right, and then she writes a little bit more about that and about my dad and how much time he spends outside in the yard, caring for the birds, feeding the hummingbirds. Like, these are, you know, daily tasks that are a part of how they experience the season of their life, right? Which is very different from when we were young kids and when they were busy with that season. This is a different season for them, and so they have new things that require their care and attention. And this is such a beautiful example of, you know, when people are like, I don't have any stories to tell, I don't have anything to say, why would I do this project? This is why. right? Whatever season you are in, there are things to celebrate. There are things to be thankful for. There are pieces of your story to remember. And I'm so just overwhelmed with gratitude to my mom and my dad for taking the time to put this together. And over the last few months, my mom has been calling me and we've been talking on the phone, and every time she's given me updates on her album. And then this last time when they were heading up the road, they dropped it off here for me to be able to look at, and which is why I'm videotaping it, because I felt like it was something that was so special and that I wanted to share with our community as a good example of, it doesn't have to look a certain way, right? It doesn't have to be crafty. It doesn't have to have all of the other stuff in it. But the most important things are the words and the photos, and that's what a little bit what she talks about here in the end too, as she wraps up the album. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions below. Huge, obviously, thank you to my parents for being able to share this with me. It is a treasure that I treasure forever, right? I mean, I guess that's all you can say about it in the end. Super thankful. All right, you guys, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you back here again soon.